If climate change has you feeling overwhelmed, confused, helpless, maybe even a little scared, I'm with you. The problem seems so complex, so big, sometimes it's easier to just look away. You wonder, is there really anything that we can do that will make a difference? Sure, we can change our light bulbs, we can turn down our thermostats, but what else? Well, I believe that you can make a difference, and these small steps we take are really important towards living more sustainably as a culture, as a nation, as a global community. And I think the best place to start is in your backyard. In this video, we're going to talk about 5 homegrown solutions for climate change. Hi, I'm Amy Landers with GardensThatMatter.com, where we believe your garden is the key to better food, a better life, and a better planet. And we know that climate change is one of the big challenges we face as humans on this amazing planet of ours today. And while climate change is really complex, it comes down to 2 main problems. The first one is too much carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. We've pulled this carbon out from underground where it was stored as fossil fuels, and we've released it into the air. And now there's more than there should be. So the solar radiation is getting trapped here on our planet and changing our climate. And then the other problem is, as we've released more carbon dioxide, we've also destroyed some of the ways that nature helps balance out that carbon cycle. We've cleared forests and prairies, we've tilled up soil. All of those things can be carbon sinks. And so by developing those areas, we have less places to store carbon. So with that in mind, we can be confident that if we do one of 2 things, we are helping combat climate change. The first one is to use less fossil fuel energy, use less carbon-based energy. And the second one is to increase the places on this planet where carbon can be stored. And by growing plants and tending your soil well, you are going to be doing those things. With that in mind, let's jump into our 5 backyard solutions for climate change. Number 1, grow food. My guess is you are already doing this, at least on a small scale, or you want to be doing this because here you are on a gardening YouTube channel. So great job, because this really does make a difference. Even if you don't have a huge garden, you are making a difference in several different ways. First of all, when you grow your own food, you're less dependent on food that comes from the grocery store. So you have less transportation costs going into the foods you're harvesting right out of your garden. From there, we find that gardeners tend to be more aware of things like local foods and seasonal foods. And that is going to be a big part of changing the way our food system works. When we eat locally, when we get our food from local farmers and neighbors, when we eat in season, these things save tons and tons of carbon because we're not shipping things across the country or across the world just so that we can eat asparagus in November, right? We know, if we're a gardener, that asparagus is one of the first things up in spring, so we know that that's the time to eat it, and it's when it's going to taste the best too. So whenever you are growing food in your garden, whenever you are growing your fruit trees or your berry bushes, you are helping solve climate change. But let's go even deeper. Number 2, turn food waste into eggs. Food waste is a major problem, especially here in the United States. Food that goes to waste that has all this carbon embedded in it, right? We've shipped it across the country, we've stored it in cold storage, and then to have it go to waste is pretty tragic. We then put it in garbage bags, send it off to the landfill where it breaks down in an anaerobic situation, no oxygen in a landfill, releasing methane. And while some landfills are able to capture that methane and use it for energy, there is always some methane that escapes. And it's another one of our greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide. And so we don't want to have this food waste going off to the landfill. Instead, we can feed our chickens with these leftover foods. The chickens will eat these foods. They'll also fertilize your garden or your yard and provide you with delicious eggs. And once you have had homegrown eggs, it's very hard to go back. Did you know that 30% of the trash in our landfills is organic waste? It's waste that would decompose if we put it into the compost instead of bagging it up in plastic bags, hauling it to the curb, having dump trucks pick it up, and carry it off to the landfill, where it has that same off-gassing problem that we had. So that means that number 3 is to recycle your yard waste at home by composting. Any kind of organic waste that comes out of your yard, garden waste, leaves, branches, and out of your home, paper towels and paper, these will all decompose. And so you can keep them on site and recycle them back into organic matter for your garden by composting. You can also put your food waste into your compost pile if you don't have chickens, or if you do have chickens, their bedding and manure can feed your compost pile. This compost is a great, stable way to store carbon and to provide organic matter that's going to make your soil healthier. It's going to feed the life in your soil, which is another way to encourage life in your soil, and that's going to be storing carbon as well. Plus, you have the nice side benefit of the healthy soil, meaning healthy plants, which means you grow even more food the next season. Number 4, overthrow your lawn. We have 40 million acres of lawns in the United States. Do we really need 40 million acres of lawns where we're running gas-powered mowers, which are less efficient than cars? So 1 hour on the mower is equivalent to like 10 to 12 hours in a car when it comes to carbon emissions. What if we stopped mowing? What if we mowed less? What if we had less space to mow? These are all ways we can overthrow or overgrow the lawn. Around here, we've started doing that by expanding our garden beds. We've got mini meadows. We've got an orchard that's now got a cover crop on its ground instead of grass that has to be mowed. This cover crop will grow up, it'll become mulch, and we won't have to mow that area. Maybe once a year we'll mow it, like the mini meadow we mow once a year, but it's a lot less than the weekly mowing that a lawn might take. With your lawn, what happens if you let parts of it grow up? You can put a nice fence around it, put a wildlife habitat sign out there, have less lawn. Sure, you probably want to keep some lawn for your kids or your pets, understandable, but do we need 40 million acres of lawns? Or do we need 30 million acres of fruit trees and wildlife habitat and pollinator flowers and gardens and maybe just 10 million acres of lawns or even less? So think about how you can slowly shrink the lawn that you have to mow and increase the amount of space that you're growing perennials and your garden beds. Number 5, love your soil. Soil down below our feet, sometimes we think of it as dirt, sometimes we don't think of it at all. But soil, if it is healthy soil, is full of life. And all those living organisms, the bacteria, the fungi, the worms, the moles, all of these things living in our soil are made of carbon. And in our soils, we have miles and miles of fungi. And that fungi acts as carbon sequestration. Now, when we till the soil, when we douse the soil with chemical fertilizers or pesticides or herbicides, these are things that kill off that life in our soil. And thus, we release that carbon dioxide back into the air. We want to keep that carbon down in the soil, stored in the bodies of all these organisms, which also give us the benefit of healthier gardens. By doing things like low-till or no-till gardening, by using mulch, by using cover crops, these are things that are going to support your soil and all that life in your soil. It's going to be storing carbon down underground and producing delicious food for you at the same time. There you go, 5 backyard solutions to climate change. But that is just a handful. There are hundreds and hundreds of ways that we can address this challenge together, and I would love to hear from you. Let's have a conversation in the comments below. What are you passionate about? What actions are you taking in your own home and your own yard? What else should we be talking about when we talk about climate change in our own backyards? For more garden goodness, head on over to gardensthatmatter.com. If you know somebody who'd like this video, I'd be honored if you shared it. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, and until I see you again, happy gardening! There's lots of bumblebees on these flowers. It's great. Super late bloomer. Mexican sunflower. Everyone should have them in their garden. They're not native, but they're native to North America, so they're awesome.